Where should you get your parrot from? Hi, I'm Kaylin, the author of the Parrot Bliss Bond, and in this blissful video, we are talking about the 3 or 4 places you can get your parrot from, and I am joined by Paloma, my baby female African Cape, and Binks, my golden conure or queen of Bavaria. I am also the author of the Parrot Bliss Bond. Maybe I already said that. Please be sure to get your copy on Amazon.com so that you have your handbook to help you understand everything that you need to provide a quality life for your parrot, wherever you get them from, so that you can have the most bliss possible. Where can you get your parrot from? And then actually at the end, I'll answer the question of how long, when you bring your parrot home, should you have your parrot stay in their cage and acclimate before you bring them out. So the places you can get your parrot from are going to be directly from a breeder. Not always easy. A breeder, one problem, if you get a parrot from a breeder, the one pro is that the baby is in a way less stressed out. And what I mean by that is they haven't already switched homes once or twice by leaving their home with the breeder and then going to a pet store where they sat in a pet store for a little while, where they may have been extremely well loved and cared for, but I just feel like no one's going to take care of your baby Fid the way you are. And so Fid, of course, is like your feathered kid, and I do believe that. I don't think that even the pet stores that take really good care, if nothing else, you're probably getting one Fid and you're going to be able to dote all of your time and attention to them, or whatever amount of time and attention. Whereas at the pet store, they have several babies, and otherwise they wouldn't be in business. And, they can just only, they're doing it all the time, which is kind of nice, but they're paying attention to different things, that kind of thing. So getting them directly from a breeder kind of rocks because you skip some stress in the baby's life, which one of my vets says can lead to your baby getting like an infection because they get sick. Like stress can cause them to get sick. The cons to getting it from a breeder is not going to have, generally speaking, too many species choices. The best breeders, in some ways, not 100% true. Do you see her? Like, she's like looking, look at that sky. Wow. The best breeders are going to really specialize so that they get to really, really know their species. And one of the other things is when they specialize, they then, then when their birds have babies, they can pair unrelated babies for future breeding. Or if something happens to one pair, like let's say the female perishes or for whatever reason or whatever, then, because they have only a couple different kinds of birds, one of the things that happens is they have more birds and it's easier to replace that. So like, they kind of speak that language better. They get to know that species really well. It's easier for them to just, in a way, do a better job because they're really specializing. And so that's like a pro, but the con is if you get in touch with the breeder, because finding them sometimes is really hard, or getting them on the phone is really hard because they're busy. They're so busy, it's not funny. And they work every day of the year. They get no sick days, no vacation days. It's crazy. So generally speaking, the con can be that they're just not going to have as many species. So like you finally get a hold of them and they don't have, you wanted a crimson conure and they only have green cheeks or something like that. And of course, I think that it depends on the breeder. Some breeders are phenomenal, like my mentor, Tony Silva. He can pull it off, and he has a staff, so it's a little different. There are other breeders who I don't think they can pull it off. They don't have a staff, and it's like you don't want to see someone like trying to breed 10 different kinds of species and they only have 1 or 2 and they're running around. It can be like at that point, it's a little more comfortable, generally speaking, if they're specializing, but no absolutes, because my mentor is an absolute exception to that. And I really don't think he's the only one. So it's really about the breeder, but I don't think you're going to get to know the breeder like I said, I think you're going to be lucky if you get to talk to them on the phone. If you go to a store, the stores, generally speaking, are going to have babies. Sometimes they do have rehomed birds, and on whatever online service, there's like some online services that adopt out cats, dogs, you know, parrots, other animals. There's different things. So the next thing is you can get either a baby or a rehomed bird. Not the same thing, of course, but in other words, that's going to be either like from an online place or a bird store, because a bird store can have babies, and sometimes they will also have some adults. Like sometimes they let people rehome them with them, or that kind of thing. The huge advantage to a store is that they can have 20 species, because they don't have to know about like just the incredible amounts that a breeder has to know to really know the species, to really take care of the species, to really meet their needs, to really feed them properly. Because parrots only breed when they're in like really good health, really good conditions, that kind of thing. And I don't think that's 100% true, but I think it's like, you know, strongly true. So the parrot store, you know, they can have 20 species in there, or maybe 30, whatever, because they're just taking care of the babies, weaning the babies, and they know how to feed the babies. All they have to know is, does this baby get formula with or without nut fat? That's like not, I mean, of course that's a little exaggerated, but that's what they need to know as far as like the nutrition goes. So the other huge thing about a store is that whether it's a baby or an adult, generally speaking, you can ask 962 questions, and not only will they answer your questions, but like you can call back later and ask if you have another question. What's up, sweetie? What's up? So, do you want me to feed you again? So that's pretty nice, because, you know, a breeder's going to get pretty annoyed if you have a couple of questions. And that's not always true, but I would say more often than not, because, like I said, they are running around like crazy. Most breeders are going to start feeding babies at 6 a.m. and end at maybe 11. Some even go later than that, depending on how young the babies are. And they're running around like feeding the parents, changing the cages, cleaning, you know, doing the food, taking care of the babies, feeding the babies again, feeding the babies again, feeding the babies again. So it's not a 9-to-5 job, and there's no vacation, like I said, no sick days. So you got to really appreciate your breeders, because they just knock themselves out. The next place you can get your parrot, of course, is from a rescue. I think there are some phenomenal rescues. There are some rescues that I'm not sure that they should be rescuing. And, you know, that's kind of the same is true for breeders, right? There are some breeders who are phenomenal, and there are some breeders who should not be, right? I mean, you know, you get some of everything. And it's hard, because how are you going to know what the breeder's like, or what the rescue's like, or even what the pet store's like? But the pet store, you can walk in and kind of see, does it look clean? Does it smell clean? A parrot store might have sort of this parrot musky smell, but generally speaking, a parrot store is not going to smell. Like when I walk into reptile stores, not that I do that very often, but I don't like the way they smell, you know. A parrot store should not be like that. You really shouldn't like walk in and go, oh, there's animals here. I mean, you will, but not like, like waff. You know, it should not be like that. If you look at the cages, the standards, the states have them, at least in Florida, I assume the rest of the country is the same. The standards that they have to keep to maintain their license are pretty high. If there's poop all over the cage, either they have a very sick parrot, or their license is going to be taken away. Like that's one thing that's kind of cool. Like generally speaking, when you go into a pet store, like they have to maintain things pretty nicely. Of course, that's not 100% true, but generally speaking. So, you know, like I said, you go in, and it should give you, like, you go in and see how you feel. If you feel like, oh, don't touch anything, maybe don't get your bird there. If you go in and you're like, oh my God, I wanna hug you. Oh my God, you're beautiful. Oh my God. Then that's probably a pretty good sign that they're taking good care of things. Unfortunately, of course, you can't do that with the breeder or with a rescue. I mean, you can go, like if the rescue has an open house, you can go and see some. But in other words, it's not like a pet store that's open every day. And some pet stores, because they have to, for example, take care of their birds, they're like, a lot of bird stores are open every day because they're there anyway. So, you know, rescue, it's like they might have an open house once a month, twice a month, I don't know. But you're not seeing you're kind of seeing their shiny moment. So it's just, my point is, it's hard to tell. Where should you get your bird? I think that depends on you. I believe that, number one, if you go to a pet store, you should make sure that the pet store has some sort of, you could take your bird to the vet in the next X number of hours. It's usually like 2 or 3 days. And if there's any problem, you need to bring that back, or we need to check with our vet or whatever. But, you know, we'll like guarantee the bird for 2 or 3 days kind of thing. I kind of feel like a parrot is a living creature. It's just like a human baby. There are no guarantees, but it's kind of nice when there is that kind of guarantee, because like I kind of feel like at that point the pet store is sort of saying, you know, we're doing everything we can to make sure that you have a happy, healthy parrot. And that makes you feel good, especially when you buy expensive parrots. So if you buy a parrot that you consider to be expensive and that's more than a couple $100s, it's probably worth taking to the vet, because the vet might be under $100 to $200, $250. But if you get an expensive bird, I think it's really good to know that chances are you're doing pretty good, because the vet doesn't have a magic 8-ball or a magic crystal ball, and the vet can't tell you everything, but they're, of course, going to be able to tell you so much more. And so I think that's a good idea if you get your bird from a pet store. So definitely, if you do that route, I would make sure that there's some sort of, you know, couple days to check out your bird. Otherwise, you know, I had someone comment that he wanted to get a bird, and people were like, oh, you're going to do a rescue, right? Adopt, don't shop, I think is what people say. I agree and I disagree. I have both. I think you have to have the right bird for you. You have to be doing it for the right reasons. You know, it just, like, no one can tell you, are you looking to rescue? Because some rescues won't ever bond with you. The Amazon that's like this with him is like, I can't make a cross because I'm holding her, like this with me. Sometimes he lets me pet his head, and then he stops, and then he flips his beak up and tells me no more. So if I wanted a snuggly, cute, loving parrot, it would have been very disappointing. I'd be unhappy, and like if he was loud and doing his Amazon call, which he does, you know, I might have been miserable, and then he would be miserable. I really don't think that you should go and get any bird, not from the breeder, not from the shop, and not from the rescue, if you're going to be miserable. You know, I mean, that's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for the bird, obviously. So what's the right place for you? Well, I think it depends. If you want a baby, I think you should get a baby. If you go to a rescue and you find one that clicks with you, which is what I did in my Lorenza, my yellow-naped Amazon, she's like this with me. She's like, people are like, oh my God, have you had her forever? I'm like, no, I adopted her as an adult. She chose me, and it was a click. So because she chose me, it just really, really clicked. It's like she knew more than I did. That was the right bird for me. So was Paloma. She was from a breeder. So was Binks. He was from a pet shop. So I have some of everything. I think you have to get the right bird for you. A bird like a Cape parrot is not likely to be in a rescue. They're not very common birds. A golden conure might be, but they're also just not very common. And they're delicate. So if they are in a rescue, kind of really go in with open eyes, because like, I just don't know why someone would rehome or you know, surrender a golden. And there are reasons. One of my vets has a golden that's lived there for like a year because the family got divorced, and so I think they didn't agree on who was keeping it, or I don't know what. But it's a situation in which the golden conure is actually perfectly healthy, but for reasons, you know, having nothing to do with the golden conure, he's not rescued, he's at the vet. I think the vet's kind of adopted him, but anyway. So, you know, it really, really depends. Are you going to be able to find that species? Are you only going to be able to find that species with a breeder? Because pet stores are They might have a rare species if you're looking for something rare, but sometimes it's really unlikely. My husband has a hyacinth macaw on his bucket list, and that is unlikely to be at a rescue, and it is unlikely to be at a pet store. Not impossible, and it does happen, but if he wanted to get a hyacinth within the next 6 months kind of thing, chances are he would have to contact a breeder to find one. So a lot depends on the bird you want, a lot depends on what you're comfortable with, a lot depends on your intent. You know, maybe you want to rescue, maybe you don't. Maybe you haven't had a parrot before and you kind of want an easy job, because it's possible. I think that you know, it's not a guarantee, but I think you have to consider that at a rescue, your parrot may have issues, and you have to decide whether or not you are capable and ready to handle a parrot with issues, because they can be hard. And so jumping into a parrot, if you've never had a parrot before, for example, that is high maintenance, highly demanding of attention, and one that has emotional baggage kind of thing, well, I'm not sure that that's where you should start. I think you should probably build up, see what a parrot's like, see what an easy parrot's like, because preparing vegetables for a parrot every day is a little ridiculous. And yet, that is the lifestyle when you have parrots. Having parrots, I think, is a lifestyle choice. It's not like getting a dog or getting a cat was never a lifestyle choice for us. It never affected how we lived. Having parrots completely affects how we live. For example, we don't really travel anymore. It's very rare. It's very, it doesn't really happen. We went away for one night once. So we were back within 24 hours so that I could take care of the birds again. So it's a lifestyle. And like I said, I don't feel like a cat and a dog are necessarily like a lifestyle choice. And it probably also depends on how many birds you have. And we have one or two, you know, so that affects things too. Right, Paloma? This little girl is growing up fast and furious, which is very, very cool to see. All right, if you have any I promised that I would answer the question, how long do you leave your parrot in the cage? Well, it really depends on your parrot. If your parrot is like Paloma, who is ready to conquer the world, she is 10 weeks, and the other day, she just picked up and flew. And then she picked up and flew again. Thank God she's not doing it now because there's a pool. And she needs to learn she needs to learn how to fly really well so that she will follow her natural instinct not to fly in the pool, which actually happened the second time she flew. She did fly over the pool, but you know, you're kind of going, oh my God. And of course, we never leave them unsupervised out here. But anyway, Paloma is like, the world is mine. And so she is comfortable coming out. She was, I mean, you know, there was no need to acclimate her at all. If you have a rescue who is looking at you like they, you know, like the deer in the lights kind of thing, they are freaking out, then I think that not only should you let them be in their cage and acclimate, but I would leave the cage door open. Maybe except for like if you're not home or like at night, that kind of thing. If you're around, I would leave the cage door open. And I would also put a blanket or something over at least half of their cage so that they have a good sense of privacy. If a bird like that obviously needs to get a sense of safety and security in place first to reduce their stress, and if they're stressed out, you should get them some of TINK'S CBD oil. It's the Parrot Relief. Then, you know, then you want to do the things to help them be calm, help them feel comfortable, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, unless you have a parrot like that, generally speaking, if you get your parrot from a store or a breeder or even a rescue, if you go to a rescue and you find a parrot and you click with them, chances are you don't really need to acclimate them. So I would kind of measure their body language. I mean, you could see that this little girl, she's been with us for not quite 2 weeks. You can tell she's super comfortable. I mean, part of her is like, why aren't you letting me go anywhere? Why are you keeping me here? Because I'm keeping my eye on you. She's totally comfortable. So you watch, you know, when they're out of their cage, are they cowering? Or you see her stretching her wings. You see her stretching her wings. That was cool. You see her, you know, she's kind of like, what's this? Oh, it's your thumb. What else can I explore? What, you know, what's this? What's this? And, oh, this guy's sleepy. Oh, So these are two examples of birds that are completely, of course, comfortable, and not that Binks is new to me. So I hope that gives you a good idea. You know, she's acting like she wants to explore. If your bird is comfortable, let them stay out longer. Keep their cage door open. I have yet to find a parrot that doesn't understand that this is their house, their territory. Like, I can put a parrot in a cage once. And one thing I do is I change cages around. I change them around because she's eating my hair now. I change them around either because I put someone outside and in the outdoor cage, and so now their indoor cage is open and their indoor cage is bigger. So, you know, I put somebody else in there, or I have a baby and now she's ready to be in a cage with somebody else, so now her cage is free, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of cage swapping at my house. And even when I do that, I put a bird in the cage and they know when it's their territory. And then if I switch it, they know what their new territory is. So trust your parrot's intelligence and trust their body language to let you know how quickly they're ready to come out. When you open the door, if they jump out, they're ready. Are you going to be able to get them back in? Well, take them to a small room, a bathroom, or, you know, a small room, so that you can more easily have them come back in and, you know, do something like have a treat going back to their cage or in their cage, that kind of thing. But watch their comfort level and trust their intelligence. All right, this is a wrap. Thank you if you stuck with me to the end. I appreciate it. And to support my parrots, I am now monetizing. Thank you for watching advertisements. I am in gratitude to you. Until the next feathered nibbling video, we'll catch you next time.